Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. Today we are going to be talking about podcasting and time management. I know a lot of you who watch my videos are into long form content, and this is something that I've actually been doing with my 3 astrology clients for the past 6 months now. Producing a weekly podcast is no joke, and I think there's a lot that goes into podcasting, but a lot of the times people don't realize how easy it can actually be to manage and stay consistent with. So today we're going to dive into my method for producing your own podcast in 10 hours or less per month. Yes, it is completely possible. I have done it, and today I am actually going to teach you how to do that. This is not a method that cuts corners. This is one of the most important things I should mention. I do not lack on quality. I am actually a quality queen, if there's a word for that. I pay much attention to detail. I am not somebody who cuts corners. So mind you that this strategy is not going to lower the quality. It's just going to bring the barrier to entry down for you and give you basically the bare bones formula for producing your own podcast. As I said, it is a lot easier than it seems. And let's just dive right into the concepts. If this is your first time on the channel, my name is Liz. I am a 5-year content producer and a marketing strategist, and I have worked with many small businesses, a lot of them in the wellness industry, spirituality industry, and for the past 6 months, I have been producing podcasts for 3 different astrologers successfully. I actually was able to get one of my clients monetized in under 3 months and an 11,000 monthly audience viewership on her channel, which is incredible. My 2 other clients that I am working with right now are in the same niche, and they are doing different kinds of services with me. I do full service production as well as consulting. I will link a book a free call link below if that is something you are interested in. So my whole mission is to actually allow you to create content that moves the needle in your business. I am not about creating content and waiting for something to happen from just the content itself, right? We don't want to just consistently educate and add value, even though I'm sure you've heard that a lot. That is actually what I heard, and I realized that it doesn't matter how many followers I have, it doesn't matter what my audience size is. I should be sending people somewhere if I am trying to build a business through my content, right? We cannot build a business if we are not offering somebody anything. It doesn't have to be something paid. It could just be a themed newsletter. It could be a free resource, a checklist. It doesn't always have to equate to money. And that is something that I also speak about a lot on this channel. So I want to kind of paint the picture of probably what you think goes into producing your own podcast. I'm sure when you initially think of podcasting, you think of scrambling for ideas, messy editing marathons, and staying up super late to all hours of the night just trying to publish something because you don't have the editing skills and you've never really done something like this before. You don't know what keywords to do. You don't know how to add all these things to optimize your content. This is at the very least extremely draining to your creativity. It is exhausting. And at the end of the day, it is actually very unsustainable. This whole idea of what you might think podcast production looks like. So now I'm going to paint the picture of what it actually looks like for me to produce my own podcast and for my clients to produce their own podcast as well. Imagine sitting down with a clear system that is already created. It is already a foundation of guardrails that you just basically have to fill in. You know exactly what you're doing with your dedicated content hours. I teach my clients how to build schedules that include content work hours, even if their schedule is like the most busy thing I've ever seen, right? I've worked with a lot of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and I know what busy schedules look like, okay? If you have a 9-to-5 job, please know that you can absolutely still produce a podcast, even when you have a 9-to-5 job, okay? All it really has to take, if we're sticking to that 10 hours a month framework, that's 30 minutes every weekday or 2.5 hours every week, right? So you could do all of the 2.5 hours on Saturday, Sunday, in the evenings, or you could do 30 minutes for 5 days a week. It doesn't matter if you wanted to do both Saturday, Sunday. That means you have 2 days off during the week that you don't do any content work, okay? So that's just an example of how it really can look. I know it's extremely simplified, and you're probably wondering, well, Liz, what do I actually do during these 30 minutes or this 2.5 hours? So instead of making this YouTube video surface level and not really showing you the actual systems that I teach you in my one-to-one consulting programs, I'm actually just going to screen share some screenshots from my program that can help you understand how this all works together. So let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, guys, so we are in the back end looking at the time management section. So the first thing that I do with my clients is I take them through their schedule, their ideal schedule. What do they want their life to look like? This is kind of a loaded question, but at the same time, it is showing that you can really make content work within your schedule no matter how busy you are. And this is just an example of a 30-minute every weekday schedule that looks probably the most busy that you could probably get with a 9-to-5 job. Maybe you come back home, you have dinner time, right? And this is really just showing you a way that you can make this work, right? So if we are only doing 10 hours a month of content, we are just dedicating 10 hours a month to content. What that really means is 30 minutes every weekday. And you can also do 2.5 hours every week. And I can show you some examples of that toward the end. But this is an example of a 30-minute every weekday schedule that is definitely for a busy person, right? So we can do content work in the evening, content work on our lunch break. We can do it all during our lunch breaks. We could do it in the morning before we head to work, right? Now we're getting into 2.5 hours every week schedule. Okay, so what does that look like? That looks like maybe taking up 2 days a week of your full lunch break and taking just 30 minutes the next day. So, right, you're only doing content work Tuesday through Thursday, and on Thursday, you only do 0.5 hours, okay? And so I'm going to explain to you what this content work time actually looks like, and that is part of the creation section of this program. So this doesn't come till later, but I can show you quickly after these schedules what that actually looks like within that content work time, right? So another 2.5 hours every week schedule here. You can just bundle it all on one day, right? That would be called batching. So you could batch it all on Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, Thursday nights. I always just consider Friday nights off. You could do it all Saturday, all on Sunday. So that is just an example of the time management. Okay, so the big question is, what are we doing during the content work hours? I totally get it. This is something that I've created. It is called the Plan, Create, Edit, and Publish method. And what this really is referring to is every single stage of the creation process. So if you think about how you create a piece of content, you are always planning, then you're creating, then you're editing, and then you're publishing. I really see 4 stages here that can kind of be sectioned out in their own time frames so that you're giving the same amount of time to each thing. And that is truly all you need. You might be in your head thinking, well, Liz, I'm not a video editor, so editing is going to take me so much time. And that is not particularly true. And that is something that I would explain to you face to face or in a group consulting program. But basically the mini version of what I would say to that is these days you don't need all of these fancy edits to get results. And so if results is what you're after with your content, you do not need to know how to be a graphic designer, a graphic animator, an illustrator. Like, you don't need to do all of that, especially if you're doing it for yourself, for your business, and you are using YouTube or another podcasting platform to expand your audience and expand your message of what you do, right? We don't need all the fluff. And so that is kind of my short form version of that, okay? And so with this Plan, Create, Edit, Publish method, we can either do this on a monthly basis or we can do this on a weekly basis. So I hope this is not confusing to look at, but basically what this means is during those content work hours that I showed you in the last slide, just to be easy for us, I'm going to actually just assume we're going to take the 30 minutes a day every weekday schedule, okay? Maybe that works best for us. So the 30 minutes a day every weekday in the monthly kind of Plan, Create, Edit, Publish method, if you're working on a monthly basis, you are going to use every single weekday of this first week here of the month. Every weekday, content hours. That's 30 minutes a day. In those 30 minutes on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, and Friday, you are going to be planning one piece of content. Okay? So that means you're going to have 5 pieces of content planned by the time that you are creating. And so what does Create Week look like? Create Week is the week that you actually record raw video or you record your audio of these content pieces that you planned. And as we go into the program, I'm obviously going to dive into exactly how you plan, exactly how you structure your content pieces. You're basically going to have all of the structures already created for you, and you're just going to fill it all in, which is amazing. So that would be Create Week. Monday through Friday, you are literally recording. You're not doing anything else. You're just recording. You're looking at your plan that you created last week every single day. The content piece that you created on Monday, you're going to record on the Monday after, right? Because now you're creating. So it's easy to see it that way. So what do we do after we have all this like raw recorded content? We're spending the whole week editing all 5 pieces of content. Now, I know that feels crazy, but again, you don't have to have these elaborate edits. It can just be little lower thirds on the screen during the time that you're talking about something to emphasize a key point, or a page overlay in Canva that you create just to emphasize your point. These are not things that are going to take you hours and hours and hours, especially when you have the templates for them, which I will give you in this program. So that's Edit Week. And Edit Week can be so simplified if you use a tool like Descript. Obviously, I am not sponsored. This is such a small channel, but Descript actually helps you to basically get rid of all the spaces, the ums, the ahs, all of the filler words. It allows you to get rid of those things in one click. And it allows you to have a transcript. It will like automatically transcribe your audio into words so that you can see paragraphs of what you say. You can delete words and then it will cut it out of the video. It's incredible. So Descript is literally the tool that I use to do this because it's the fastest. And so that is something I will say with Edit Week. You're basically going to be living in Descript during these 30-minute segments on each day of that week. And that is how you're going to do that. You're just going to edit, tighten it up. You don't need all these graphic elements overlaid if you don't want that. If you do want that, you might have to be willing to spend a little bit more time every month on your content, which if we're talking 10 hours a month and you spend 15 hours a month just to get a little bit more graphics in, I'm not sure if that's totally not worth it for some people. I think some people it would totally be worth it. So now we're on to Publish Week. And Publish Week is dedicated to literally thumbnail description, right? When we think about a podcast, the title, the thumbnail, and the description, because the description has SEO keywords in there, these are the things that are going to help your content be searchable and show up when people search. So this is an important thing. Some people could say, like, that's not a lot of work. It's not, but at the same time, in your Publish Week and in your Plan Week, you should be really looking at some of the content that you've previously uploaded and the best performing content of that content and why it did well, right? Like we want to understand why that did well. And so you're well informed on what content is performing really well. And therefore you can make Publish Week super easy in terms of maybe just plugging in the title and the thumbnail concept that did well into ChatGPT and asking it to basically give you a version of that mirrors basically the core value of that title thumbnail and mirror it onto this new piece of content, right? Like there are specific ways that you can go about this. And during Publish Week as well is when I am using a lot of help from ChatGPT to assist the process, right? So it's like I basically copy and paste the transcript of the video, and the video is always me speaking, like authentically, right? Like right now I'm speaking authentically. What I'm saying right now is going to be copied and pasted into ChatGPT because I have access to that transcription in Descript. This is all the content that I'm saying. And so I'm basically going into ChatGPT, copying, pasting the whole transcript of the video and saying, hey, can you create like a 2 to 3 minute sentence summary that describes what I talk about in this video and what the viewer is getting out of watching this video. And you'd be so surprised at how similar it makes you sound when you say, hey, I'm speaking in this transcript. Can you please make it sound exactly like me? And that's all you have to really do. It's not this complex, craziness. Okay. And so we're on to the bonus week, and the bonus week is your sustainability mechanism. It is the thing that allows this to be sustainable, okay? And the reason for that is because you and I both know that life happens and stuff comes up, and this is not just meant to be this perfect little plan that's always going to work. This is a dedication, right? We're committed to this, and therefore there are just going to be things that pop up in our life that allow us to not stay on track. Okay, so what this bonus week gives you, it helps you to sustain the process by giving yourself a free week. And a free week is basically like a vacation, right? Like you get a free week from this content work, even though it's 30 minutes a day or 2.5 hours a week, just free. You don't have to do anything. This is like a placeholder for when things happen. And so that is exactly why this is so sustainable. So I'll show you briefly what this could look like if you wanted to do this work on a daily schedule, meaning instead of doing everything over the course of a month and doing each process by the week, you do it by the day, right? So I'm actually doing this method right now because I just went through a move. I'm in a new location. And so the weekly schedule wasn't really working for me during that time because I wasn't having a lot of time to do that stuff weekly. I was like dedicating 2 to 3 weeks to do this move, right? So now what I'm doing to get myself back on track and back on my consistency is I'm switching to the daily schedule. And so what that looks like is just switching those processes, those weeks that you're planning. Instead, you're just dedicating Mondays to planning. And then you're publishing on either whatever day of the week that you want to publish would be like the next week after, but you're basically doing everything on a specific day. So it has to unfortunately be in this order. So whatever days of the week work for you to do this work, it can work. So right now I have plan day as Mondays, create day as Tuesdays, editing day as Wednesdays, publishing as Thursdays, and Fridays is my bonus day. It's the day that is completely off if I stay on track, or it's the day that I do the thing that I didn't get to on maybe Thursday because I got busy, and it's now on that Friday, right? If you don't have availability on like Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, whatever that is, you can just shift all of this in the same order to whatever days of the week works best for you. Okay, so now I just want to simply show you what this all can look like in terms of what you're doing. What are you doing during this time? These content hours, okay? So this will hopefully wrap it all up for you and you'll completely understand how this kind of works. So during your 30-minute content work hours on your plan week, we're going to just use the weekly view just for the purposes of making this easy. So on your plan week, your content work hours will look like analyzing past month's top performing content. Why do we do this? Because when we're planning future content, we want to capitalize on what's working. And if you don't even look at the content that's been working, you're not going to know what direction to go. You're not going to know what your audience actually enjoys getting from you. And that's super important. So that is a huge piece of it, is analyzing your past month's top performing content. Plan time looks like content ideation based on the above, right? So we want to base what we're analyzing on the future month's content. So if we're analyzing that, like, okay, I'm talking a lot about time management the last month, and a lot of that did way better than any of my strategy content, right? Like the topic or something like that. We want to have that inform the direction we take our content ideation. And mind you, I have a whole system for content ideation within this program, so that is not going to be a question mark if you end up working with me. This also looks like writing out your hook, key points, and calls to action of 4 to 5 new content pieces. Yep, so this is the 4 to 5 pieces of content you create, one every day, because we're in that weekly schedule. And this is basically a dimmed down version of what I would show you exactly how you can create the content. So it's like, you're always going to have a hook, you're always going to have a goal, you're always going to have key points, calls to action, and that is what's going to make your content piece really valuable and also give you actual return on investment based on what you're leading people to, right? Like, what's your goal? Is it email growth? Then your calls to action need to be free resources that have an email opt-in, right? Like, your goal is completely aligned with this whole strategy. And that is why I first take you through time management so that we get clear on your goals and what you want your life to look like. So as you can see, the next one, create, recording or writing out in full your 4 to 5 new content pieces based on your plan from last week. So this is all based on your plan. It's all it is you basically like looking at your plan and recording. And I don't believe in scripting. I believe in actually having more of an authentic kind of approach to your content, even if it takes a bit for you to get comfortable with. This is something that I believe you should absolutely try to get comfortable being more authentic on camera. And this week is just dedicated to that. So there's nothing else you do on that week. Your edit time the next week, right? This is week 3. It looks like editing the video or podcast into its final form. So this includes fixing, refining words, misspells, mistakes, adding finishing touches, animations, graphics, etc. And as I said, these are like nice to haves when it comes to animations and graphics, right? Like you're watching this video. The graphics that I'm including in this video are not making a huge difference probably on your engagement, because what is engaging to you is the subject matter and what you're getting from watching this video. It is not the graphic animations that is the reason why you're watching this, right? So editing time really can be hyper simplified. This is not something to get stressed out about. I think most people would watch this video and say, well, editing time is like the biggest barrier for me doing this myself. And I totally get it. I'm a podcast producer myself, so I do a lot of graphic animations. What I'm telling you is you don't need them. You really don't need them. And my goal is to teach you how to do this in a sustainable way. And I'm also going to give you all the templates you need. So there's no reason to get stressed out over editing time. Okay, and lastly, what publishing time looks like is creating the forward-facing content piece, details, thumbnail, title, description, SEO text, timestamps if you want, right? That's optional. And then scheduling out all content pieces for the month ahead. So almost all platforms have a scheduling out feature. And so this is what we're doing. We're not publishing it to go live immediately. We're always going to be scheduling out content because we are on a schedule. We've got other stuff to do. Content is a mechanism and it's a huge traffic source for you. That's what the goal is, right? Is to get clients and get work from your content. So we do want to dedicate some time, but we don't have all this time to just like go in and live publish. So scheduling out content is a really good idea, and it's the only way I do things. And so as you can tell, this is very much involved in copywriting. And so that's also why I dedicate a full week to this. You're basically using different muscles, so to speak, for every stage of this process. And so with planning, it's like you're getting your mind going. You're like doing the muscles of your brain, your intellect. With creating, your action. You're all about the action orientation. With editing, it's somewhat about strategy and somewhat about forward-facing, tweaking things to make it look good. And publishing, again, is kind of like the book cover. You're basically making it clickable. You're making it invoking for other people to click and engage with your content. So this is the last slide that basically gives you kind of a preview of what you can expect in the other sections of this program, which I teach one-on-one again through consulting services. So I basically am going to be with you one-on-one, teaching you exactly how to produce your own podcast, okay? And so what I take you through is a full-time management section. And you can see here, like, all of this is part of this section. And so we're not obviously diving into all of it today because that would be me giving you a program on YouTube, which wouldn't even be that valuable because I want to know what your business is about. And so this is just giving you a little bit of the future of what this could all look like if you were to do the program with me. And so after time management and after goal setting with your time, right? Like time and goals are very much aligned in my head because you want to be spending time on things that you care about and that are reaching your goal, right? You don't want to be spending time doing things that aren't putting you closer to your goal. So that whole section is very much about goal setting, time, lifestyle, right? We get into like what you want your actual life to look like. And we do that because we want to develop an offer that's aligned. We want to develop an offer that is aligned with your goal. And so when we build your ideal schedule, this is when we create an aligned offer. This is the call to action, right? Through all your content. So you're going to be driving people to your offer from your content, which all of the content stuff comes later. We want to get clear on the foundation of what your content is doing for your business. Next, we focus on content strategy after offer. So it goes time management, offer, content strategy. Content strategy is once you're clear on your offer, the next step is leading people to it, as I was just saying. So I'll teach you my evergreen strategy that maps out the problems your offer solves, right? I use problem and solution pillars, not educational pillars, inspirational pillars. Being a social media manager for 5+ years, I've learned actually it's way better to use problem and solution pillars because it makes your content evergreen. So we align these problem and solution pillars to the stages your audience goes through on their journey to investing in your offer. Then we go into creation, right? Creation comes after all of these foundational things. Most people will want to go right to creation and right to strategy, and we have to develop the foundation first for you to actually reach your goals with your content. We don't want you putting in effort if you're not going to get something from it. And we can't do that without an offer. So that is why time management, offer comes first, strategy, then creation tactics. So this is all about kind of the most critical piece of the puzzle because it is the action. You'll learn my tactics for creating quality content without it taking up all of your time. And a lot of this is very much going over what we went over today, but we are going to dive more into kind of the mechanisms of your creation, what you actually enjoy creating. This is all about like strategy in action. So that is creation. And then we go to automation, which is the sustainability mechanism, as I said. So set it and forget it, more like set it up once and let the process work for you. So this last section is all about integrating sustainability into your content, which is all about performance, publishing, and testing. So we are looking back at what we've done, seeing how it's performed, and we are testing different things to see what works. And this is very much aligned with also the planning stage of creation, which is another huge piece that is involved, of course, as you saw in this video. I really, really hope that that screen share was helpful for you to see kind of like a deep dive into my program of how I consult with my clients to build lasting, sustainable podcasts. There is literally nothing worse in the whole world than putting effort into something that you get no return out of. That was me for so long. I actually started another business called Brilliant Pit, and it was a wellness product business. And I was just endlessly creating content that didn't lead people anywhere, not even to my products, which is crazy. I was endlessly creating content and not seeing the return because I knew in the back of my head all the advice about just build value, just provide value, endless value. And then people will come knocking on your door to pay you. And it's like, no, you have to kind of build something from the start to really get that momentum going. By the time you have something really to offer people, something of really, really high value, you're already going to be set up with that audience who already trusts you. My message to you is you do not have to continue struggling. With the right system in place, you can actually really enjoy content creation and podcasting. I've proven this method to work with my 3 astrologer clients. Super low effort because all of the systems are already there for us. We stay within the guardrails, and that is how everything gets done and stays consistent. There's motivation, there's creativity, there's inspiration involved in this process, and that can be you if you are willing to put in the right systems. So again, if you are looking to do this for yourself and you're looking for guidance or you're looking for kind of a done for you solution, no matter the level of what support you're looking for, I can help you. If you wanted to book a call with me below, it is completely free. We're basically just going to gauge if we are a good fit to work together, and we can go from there. That link is actually going to take you to an explainer video that runs through how I consult and the actual steps in which I take you through to get you to this outcome of consistent podcast creation and building a content system that actually serves your business, moves the needle in your business based on your goal, whether that's income, community growth, etc. So thank you again so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.